sense. That makes sense. All right, hey, I've had like about 30-something people watching our live stream, and just had somebody tell me that the sound has been off the whole time. Oh, and I just got it fixed. I'm like, this thing's been working great. Like, I can hear it in my headset finally. It took 2 hours to get this damn thing working and get on, and they're like, yeah, the sound isn't working. It's like, oh. And then I go switch over the mic. It's like, oh, well, all right, now it's working. So for those that are watching on the live stream, hey, we've got the guys from Westlake Pirates in. Go check out their podcast. Thank you for jumping in at the late hour that it is now that we have, 4 picks left in the draft?
Yeah,
and when we started,
now with the Seahawks taking L.J. Collier, the defensive end from TCU.
Which is such a weird I don't understand some of these. You know, like I guess talent-wise, or maybe it's a good fit. You know, I don't know why I'm surprised at anything that Pete Carroll does. Because nobody
want a good cornerback.
Oh! The Seahawks just traded to the Giants.
Oh, dear Lord.
The Giants jump back into 30.
Oh, Scuzz, who's that Duke receiver again? Maybe they can take him. And
TJ Romming to help.
TJ Romming, you know. Look, David Cutcliffe groomed. You've got to...
Let's so I've got somebody requesting that we give our takes on Seattle's pick with LJ Collier. It does not surprise me at all that Pete Carroll is going to take somebody that nobody knows. Like this is a replacement. Oh, here we go. Caleb jumps in. This is a replacement for Hogs. I mean for Frank that they sent.
Yeah, they just traded Frank Clark, right? So
yeah. So that's all this is.
LJ Collier is no Frank Clark, though. I mean, come on.
No, not a chance. But I'll tell you this. I think that this has some ego with it, where the Seahawks think, for whatever reason, that they can go out and find the talent that nobody else knows about, right? They do like they did it with Rashad Penny last year. Like, they just pick somebody at the end of the first round and give them oodles of cash, and, you know, I don't know. It's a little crazy. And now, of course, the Giants with DeAndre Baker. Like,
I just want to know, like, does nobody want a good corner?
Well, I mean, the Giants just got one.
Yeah, Giants finally.
But Greedy is still on the board, and so is Byron Murphy. Guys that have, like, a much higher grade from
everybody.
Like, from everybody. Yeah. Like, and I think there's something to your comment here about overthinking it and thinking, oh, you know, this is our guy, this is our diamond in the rough, and you get down to number 29 on the draft board, and you haven't properly evaluated the people you thought were going to be gone by now.
I'll tell you the problem.
Falcons just traded with the Rams to jump back up into the first.
The problem.
Matt Ryan's back up here. Drew Lock.
No,
I don't know.
Lord, no. There's no way they're drafting Matt Ryan's back up in the first round. Not a chance.
Sam, the Broncos are taking Drew Lock eventually. You can't wish it away.
That's so. Our buddy Matt on YouTube said Giants just took the 4th best quarterback and the 3rd best cornerback. The problem for the cornerbacks, we were talking about Greedy Williams and Byron. Those guys are both redshirt sophomores, and I wonder how much that makes a difference, right? So DeAndre Baker, Jr., you know, he's played 3 years, all that. These other guys have only played 2 years. Now, talent-wise, and as far as, what do they say, mileage, you know.
Yeah, I was just going to say mileage to me, like, outweighs the other side of that. But
I agree with you. But all right, so Greedy Williams, like, I agree, he's awesome. Like, Byron was the one that I wanted. Greedy, though, he was great all season. But I wonder, like, is his size maybe an issue?
Name me an awesome LSU cornerback that hasn't worked out.
Yeah,
and
true.
Those were all Les Miles guys, though. Like Greedy's only played under Ed Orgeron, and I don't know that I trust Ed Orgeron for nothing.
It is funny though.
It's a reasonable point.
I talked about this a little earlier, Gary, and I forget if this one you were on or not. I keep waiting with a couple of these positions, and corner's one of them, for this inflection point. Because it's like everything you're saying about Greedy Williams is true, but at what point does he become a fantastic value? Like, he's a guy, if he would have gone somewhere let's say between picks 6 and 10, no one would have had no one would have been apoplectic about him going that high. Everyone would have been like, well, he was one of the top corners drafted and they wanted a corner and he has that grade. He's a lot of people's top rated corner. It wouldn't have been like, no one would have been losing their mind over him going that high. And here he is still there. So I keep.
Guys have jumped in on Periscope and on YouTube. Morris Claiborne did not work. So we got one LSU guy. And then somebody said Seattle shouldn't be allowed to draft in the first round, and Murphy missed most of his freshman year, and that was with an injury. So that could have been why Murphy has not gone yet. So there's reasons behind this. So McKinnon, one of our buddies, jumps in. To be fair, safeties and defensive backs are getting too hard to judge in college compared to other positions. And another guy, Caleb, says, yeah, Byron and Greedy are better, but hard not to pick the Thorpe Award winner at the end of the first round if you can get him. So all of it makes sense.
Speaking of Caleb McGarry, offensive tackle from Washington, goes to the Falcons at 31.
See, again, nobody can. All right, so you know how people do bracket predictions for like the NCAA tournament?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Nobody.
Don't.
Nobody will ever be able to hit an NFL draft from like picks 20 through 32. Like those last 12 picks in a draft are impossible to figure out. Did anybody have Caleb McGarry going anywhere in like the top 50?
Well, I think this hammers home too. Like Jawan Taylor is officially your big faller now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
100%.
He should have gone a long time ago. And it's like that I'd say he's the only one, and I feel like there is one every year, that he's the only one where now I'm like, what's up? Like, why is he, what don't we know? You know what I mean? I feel like there's always a guy like that every year. And I mean, with a guy like Williams, there's just clearly there's just not a run on corners at all. And that's the same reason Baker slid that hard. But Taylor, I mean, it's been 10, 15 picks since the Alabama State guy jumped him.
Well, so Taylor was in Peter Schrager and Charles Davis's mock drafts. They had Jawan Taylor going number 7 to the Jags.
Yeah.
Let's see who else had Jawan Taylor number 12 to Green Bay. That was Daniel Jeremiah. Number 7. Oh, yeah, no, hold on. Bucky Brooks over at NFL.com also had Jawan Taylor number 7. So,
well, Sam, the answer to our question we were batting around is, who's the guy the Patriots will take at the last pick? And we all slap our heads and go, how the hell did the Patriots get that guy again?
Exactly.
The leader in the clubhouse would be Jawan Taylor right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's buddies. Belichick is buddies with Dan Mullen. So, he's buddies with basically every SEC.
Yeah,
coach,
I mean,
right?
who is he not buddies with except for?
It's funny.
Anybody who he's buddies with pretty much anyone who will accept him, right? Or the other way around, right? Like, if you're a football coach and Bill Belichick is like, "Hey, want to hang out?" Like, you say yes.
Yeah, there's nothing else that you can say there. It is what it is. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you can't say no to Belichick because really you're just trying to get on his staff. Really, like that way you can go get yourself an NFL head coaching job. Is it weird
from hanging out with him?
Is it weird that anybody that gets anywhere close to Belichick and Sean McVay end up with head coaching jobs? Have we had that discussion on here yet?
Not yet, especially this year with.
It's funny you said
McVay.
that. I literally just remembered this morning oh yeah, Zach Taylor's a head coach in the NFL now. And I was like, what? I was like, he's a child. I vividly remember him playing quarterback for Nebraska recently, like not a long time ago. Like, I feel like it just happened, and now he's a head coach. I know.
There's no reason for him to be a head coach. He did not go through the he didn't put in the work. I don't think. Like, he's not been around long enough to put in the work, right?
Yeah.
No, and then Cliff Kingsbury is a failing college football coach that gets handed the Arizona Cardinals job.
That's a really bizarre hire. I mean, I don't understand that. And like,
I have a different take there, and that's that he groomed like 4 incredible college quarterbacks.
Yeah, and didn't win with any of them.
Exactly. In the Big 12, like against those defenses.
But at Texas Tech with like questionable staff around him, and I think the game in the NFL is different. That if you can effectively groom a quarterback, that it just changes the equation. You have so much more. Like, you are not limited in the way Texas Tech is limited in getting talent because of the salary cap and parity and everything else. And you have so many more resources at your disposal to hire other strong coaches, et cetera. You know, like whether or not he can be the CEO over the Cardinals, in the head coach role and groom a quarterback, like that remains to be seen. But like, I can see how you can discount what didn't go well at Texas Tech and still think that he could be successful in this role.
Let me just say, I know, Gary, right now that it's a lot of your people, a lot of SEC people, but let me just say for the Westlot Pirates contingent out there, and I'll just let this sit. When you have a reputation for effectively grooming quarterbacks, a lot of sins can be washed away.
This is a very good point.
And I'll just let that sit.
I'm sure that the Broncos wish that there was somebody that they could hire to groom a quarterback. You know, like I don't know, John Elway or somebody along those lines.
Or like Gary Kubiak.
Yeah, or
Kubiak
any of those guys would be fine. That just happened to be in the damn office, and yet can't find a quarterback to save their lives.
So here's a theory that I've kind of been mulling over, and there's it kind of goes a few places. The best players don't necessarily make the best coaches or the best general managers, because they played at such a high level, and for them to evaluate other people, that they only have themselves.
Basically,
to compare
everybody else sucks,
right? And like there's a reason that Wayne Gretzky couldn't coach. Like, he coached the Arizona Coyotes for a little while, and it was terrible because he's the best hockey player of all time, and the Pats take N'Keal Harry.
Oh, there you go.
That's interesting.
That's
not what I expected.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that.
It's just like I just feel like Belichick is just sitting and he's being like, "Where's the value?" I mean, all these receivers. I mean, N'Keal Harry. It's the same as like some of these corners and things like that. It's like if Gruden takes N'Keal Harry in the top half of the first round, everyone's like, well, I guess he wanted a wide receiver. So at 32, you can't hate the value. But I mean, that's the thing. It's going to be tomorrow's going to be a fun day. A lot of guys with a lot of potential first round buzz are still going to be on the board tomorrow. But I don't know if part of that is just because it's like a weak overall round, draft or what.
We only got 2 wide receivers in the first round. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got 1
2
running
tight
back.
ends.
2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back.
And Marquise Brown is really going to play backup quarterback for the Ravens, so it's really 1 wide receiver. He's working on his 10-yard passes right now. His pocket mobility.
Let's see. All right,
we were at least on the Westlot Pirates front. We were in love with the Lamar Jackson pick last year. I'm still convinced he could be good.
Like all 3 of you were in love with that pick.
Yeah.
With the idea to trade back into the first round and get him like at the end the way they did, like we thought that was spectacular, especially juxtaposed against the Buffalo Bills taking Josh Allen 3rd overall.
Well, no, they took him like what, 7th overall?
It was like 7th. Yeah,
7th. Yeah. Sorry, it felt like 3rd.
Yeah, it really did. Now, I will admit that the Bills absolutely reached on that one. That maybe not as much as reaching for Daniel Jones at 6, but 32. Like Lamar Jackson, to me, cannot play quarterback in the NFL, and I have been spouting like I told Chris that it was asinine that people would think it's wrong to ask him to try like and run routes or do something other than play quarterback because he is a superb athlete. But when you put him up against a good defense and a good scheme, they are going to be able to figure you out. And I think the same thing happens this year. Last year, they get him in. They don't really like they run him like crazy. But you guys understand, you watch the NFL, you know that you're not going to be able to run on teams forever. This is like the Vince Young thing, right? Vince Young was great for a year. And then everybody had tape on him and they figured him out.
So my problem is
get hurt too, yeah.
Yeah, until he gets hurt for sure. Like so my problem is that the Ravens went into the season with Joe Flacco as their starter, and Lamar Jackson did not get reps. He did not get a chance to practice or, work in a way like he had to take over midstream as a brand new rookie. And I'm not surprised at all that he struggled to throw in the NFL. At the same time, he threw for over 3,500 yards his sophomore and junior season in college. Like, I'm confident he can do it. The question to me is if they're going to scheme him in the right way and if he can stay healthy, because he takes too many hits. And so the player we saw last year, trading back up into the first round to get him, that doesn't really make sense. I don't think he was set up to succeed in the right way, and he still might not, but again, they went into the season expecting Joe Flacco to be their starter. And I'm sorry, Sam. Yeah. I know your Broncos traded for him. I think they're crazy to do it. He's no different than Case Keenum, but and maybe worse.
I was going to say he's different than Case Keenum.
There might be magic left in Joe Flacco. You never know. Like he could still throw the football. It just sometimes you didn't know where it was going. But he's still got some zip on it.
And Keenum has a pop gun for an arm. Like Keenum could not get the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at this draft, at the quarterbacks there, I was like, okay, if Denver takes Haskins at 10, I'm okay with it. But I didn't love. I mean, Kyler Murray was not dropping to 10, and I don't love Daniel Jones, and I don't love Drew Lock. So yeah, I'm just as happy for the Broncos not to take a quarterback this year. If they suck this year, we can come back next year and see what we can't do about getting in the Tua sweepstakes. If it doesn't work out with Flacco this year and it ends up being another lost season, the quarterbacks next year are just better than the quarterbacks this year. And
Justin
Denver's
Herbert
good
because there's no way that Denver is bad enough to draft number 1 to get Tua. Like it's not going to be a tank for Tua thing. There's too much talent on the team. But I could absolutely see him taking Justin Herbert. Absolutely. Sure. And then but you got to wait 2 years before you can get to Trevor,
Yeah, I know Elway had been talking with Justin Herbert quite a bit, even leading up to when Herbert decided to come back. So when Herbert didn't come out, I know there was a lot of people in the Broncos front office that were like, oh, shucks. Because I think that might have been the move.
That's
if he'd have been there at 10.
One of our buddies jumped in. He said, still can't fathom Daniel Jones being picked that high. Sneaky quarterback in the draft, I still say is Jarrett Stidham. But
okay.
McKinnon is an Auburn fan, so I'm not giving that any credence whatsoever. There's no credibility there.
To me, it's for quarterbacks. I still come back to Will Grier because I feel like at least 2-3 guys are going to go off the board before Grier does, and as long as we're taking guys who have as long as we're taking guys 6th overall based on them having cannons for arms and being like, hey,
and being a David Cutcliffe project.
Right. I think I'd rather have Greer in like the mid to late 2nd or 3rd round than Daniel Jones 6th overall. Partly because I think Greer just may straight up be better than Jones. I mean, I watched a lot of college football. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm like, I don't know. I don't quite get that. But I don't know. If Clayton Thorson's going to get drafted in any kind of respectable way, we need a real run on quarterbacks to happen tomorrow. So I'm hoping some big names start coming off the board.
Now, to be honest, so I'm looking at NFL.com, and their draft prospects, like where they've got the grades out next to them, as far as quarterbacks go, Kyler was 1, Dwayne Haskins was 2, Drew Lock was 3, Daniel Jones was 4, and then they've got Finley, Stidham, Greer, and then Thorson.
Yeah, Finley's the interesting one to me amongst like the Greer, Finley, Stidham range. And I just like how Daniel Jones isn't stuck in that situation, like in that kind of middle ground is baffling. And I really think it's all about David Cutcliffe and who he's been talking to and really how much he's been talking to the Giants. And
he's been talking to Archie Manning. We've been over this.
And they've all got blackmail on Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman. Absolutely. Our buddy
and how stunningly similar Jones looks to Eli Manning. Like there was the tweet earlier that he could play Eli Manning in a movie about Peyton Manning. Like it's really absurd.
It's just a perfect handoff.
I mean, the thing about quarterback is you spend a 1st-round pick on a quarterback because it's so important to your franchise. And if there's somebody with, really good talent that maybe has some question marks, you still go for it, right? Because the upside is so good.
But not if it's not the right guy, right?
Right.
And,
wait till the 3rd round and see what happens.
I mean, that's what the Seahawks did with Russell Wilson, right? Like, okay, he's not stereotypical. Like, he's not the prototypical NFL quarterback, but he's like, we think he tested out well. Like, let's give him a shot. And he wins the job from who was that? Matt
Flynn.
Matt Flynn, yeah, who they paid a just ridiculous ransom note kind of money.
Boatloads of cash.
Matthew Miller jumps in on YouTube. He said, I agree as a Broncos fan. So we got another Broncos fan.
Hey, another Broncos fan.
It was either Haskins or I did not want a quarterback in the 1st. Fant is a great pick because Flacco loves to target tight ends. Ryan Finley is the sneaky pick here.
I think that's true. Like to me, he's the best quarterback probably left. He was really prolific at NC State. He's got a lot of measurables. He's maybe not very proven in that he hasn't played in a lot of big games or showed up in a lot of big games. But I like him certainly better than Stidham, probably better than Greer, who. Like, I don't know, Greer seemed to peak in his sophomore season, and maybe injuries was a factor there. But
so here's the thing, though. Like, I think the best quarterback on the board right now is Josh Rosen.
Yeah, probably true.
Yeah, I agree with that. Did y'all see the tweet that the Cardinals sent out like back in February? That was like, Josh is our guy. Like, you want to talk about different scenarios and whatnot, but Josh is our guy. And then they come out and draft Kyler Murray. Like,
well,
why even say anything?
Anytime that he's our guy, that's like when the St. John's athletic director was like, Chris Mullen is our basketball coach.
And then 2 days
later, it's like if you're looking for a vote of
right.
confidence, and the vote of confidence you get is literally, he is the person who does the job right now for us. That's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, no,
so
you're
like,
you're
how do you
right.
feel about Josh Rosen? Well, he's a quarterback on our football team. Great.
The Bears invited Mike Glennon to their draft party the year they picked Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Right.
It doesn't get more brutal than that.
Mike Glennon is the name I was trying to remember. If you're looking for an argument against Ryan Finley, Mike Glennon is your argument.
That's one of Chris's absolute favorite players.
Well, I'm just suggesting that you spend. I'm just suggesting you spend a 3rd-round pick on Finley. I'm not suggesting that you give him a $10 million contract.
Oh, he won't be there in the 3rd. He'll be there in the 2nd. He's So far as quarterbacks go, the only one that's left that's rated higher than him is Drew Lock, and Lock will probably go within the first 3 or 4 picks, I would imagine.
It's funny, if you look at all the quarterbacks, there's kind of like a pivot point at Clayton Thorson, basically, where Thorson represents, at least to scouts, the low end of the guy who's, quote, built like an NFL quarterback.
Oh, the next one rated on NFL.com is Manny Wilkins.
What? Wow.
Yeah. I'm talking about the next one after Clayton. Like,
well, that's what I mean. Like, after Clayton, it gets really fun. Like, the stash, Gardner Minshew's down there. Trace McSorley is down there, which, to me, that's a fun one only because, like, Trace McSorley is kind of like homeless man's Baker Mayfield. So I'm kind of like
100%.
So I'm
just without the accuracy.
In the 6th or the 7th round or something like that. Like, sure, I'll take Trace McSorley.
Yeah, I'll take a flyer on that.
And then Easton Stick, who is like 40-0 or whatever he was. I don't even know.
But
like,
did he ever throw a pass?
Jalen Hurts is looking at Easton Stick's win-loss record and being like, dang, he won a lot of football games.
I think he threw an average of 3 passes a game. It's not hard to win when you got something built like that. As far as prospects go that had first-round grades, the number 9 overall graded prospect was Jawan Taylor.
That one's wild.
Yeah, DK Metcalf is 11. Let's see, Greedy Williams is 18. Let's see. Who else we got left on here? 21, 22. Paris Campbell, wide receiver from Ohio State, is 22.
Really?
Yeah, A.J. Brown is 25. Cody Ford, guard out of Oklahoma, is 27. Dalton Risner from Kansas State is 29. Eric McCoy, center from Texas A&M, is 30. Drew Lock, 31. Debo Samuel, 32. Byron Murphy, 33. Some of these are a little surprising. Savages.
Dalton Risner, by the way, Dalton Risner was a 2-star recruit, which when you're a Northwestern fan and your school has just hired a brand new offensive line coach, these are the kind of things you try to tell yourself to give yourself hope for the future. It can be done. 2-star offensive line recruits can be molded into top NFL guys.
So a buddy of mine is a Florida fan, Florida grad, and I was just texting with him about Jawan Taylor, and he said that Taylor's had health issues all season and wasn't actually all that good up until this past year. So if those health issues may be poking their heads up, I'm just speculating completely here. I'm just trying to figure out why a guy who had been mocked at as high as number 7 to Jacksonville could potentially be there at 38 for Jacksonville in the second round.
That's kind of crazy. So YouTube jumps in again, Matthew Miller again. He wants to know who we think won the first round. But before we get to that, McKinnon jumped back in. He said, as much as I love Stidham, he proved this past year if he doesn't have a good offensive line, he does not play well. Ryan Finley is the best pro-style quarterback left. Locke has the strongest arm but sees the least amount of field. Greer has way too many inconsistencies. And everyone else left has potential to be good backups like Matt Schaub. It isn't a good, this isn't a great quarterback class. I agree with all that.
For sure.
I think all of that's like Greer does have some inconsistencies. I also think that Greer can throw the hell out of the football, and he runs the type of system that a lot of these teams are wanting to run now. Like, isn't that the biggest thing? Everybody wants to run the air raid or like some super spread kind of. RPO is the key word that everybody wants to run now, and Greer knows how to do all of this.
Right, and I mean, there's something to be said too. I know it's sort of like an old school viewpoint of just putting a team on your back and carrying them. Only just once again to juxtapose with Daniel Jones, who David Cutcliffe put a system in that we watched Duke play Northwestern several times. He's a system quarterback. It's not like he was out there being like, all right, everyone climb on board the Daniel Jones train. I'm leading. Duke won with defense. And then if you juxtapose that to Greer, where it's just like, I'm going to throw for 500 yards and we'll just see if we can win 40 to 40, 41 to 40.
Not only was he a system quarterback, it was an RPO system that the New York Giants sure as shit aren't going to be running next year.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably right. As far as who do you guys think won the first round? I mean, do we go Raiders because they had more picks than everybody, or
I mean, the Giants had 3 first-round picks as well. They clearly did not win.
Nope.
yeah, no, that's their way out.
I'll throw this out. I think I really liked the Josh Allen.
I was
going there too. I was going there too.
Getting Josh Allen at 7 was an absolute steal. They've already got Nick Foles. Their defense, needed a little shoring up. They needed a edge rusher, and Josh Allen, I think, is the best one in the draft.
So the interesting one for me is Arizona's first round is not done yet because it comes down to what they get out of Rosen, right? So I kind of was wondering right off the bat. I mean, it could be
don't they lose leverage by not wouldn't it have been better for them to trade it before they made the pick though?
Or in the immediate aftermath. That's kind of what I was curious to see. I was like, okay, are the phones lighting on fire right now? It doesn't seem like they were. But I was wondering how many of these teams that are interested in a quarterback to you guys' point from earlier, would rather have Rosen. And I still feel like, we've got all the way between now until the start of the second round, where if anyone is looking at taking a quarterback, they could always trade for Rosen. So it's kind of like, a lot of people were talking, well, there's nothing better than having a couple of young quarterbacks on those contracts, which is true. They still got Rosen on one of those contracts, but it's like, what if they can get picks for him and get something legit out of the trade, then, they've already got Murray, so it could end up being a really sweet round for them. But I'm kind of like putting a pin. Like, I really find it hard to believe they're not going to try to deal him like as soon as they possibly can.
I'm sure they are. I just think they missed. I think they missed their window. Cause like if I'm the Arizona GM and I'm on the phone with New York or Washington or whomever, like before the draft, I'm saying, hey, look, John Gruden's going to trade me 24 and 27 or number 4 and number 27 so that he can pick Kyler Murray. I'm happy to take, this bounty of picks and keep Rosen on my team. If you want him, you got to make it worth my while. They've lost that leverage now. I think at best they're going to get, a third or fourth round pick, which, maybe that's maybe that's value on the dollar, all things considered at this stage, but it feels like they could have gotten more for him earlier on.
Well, the next team that needs a quarterback is the Miami Dolphins, and they don't pick until, 16. Now, I could also see Tampa Bay maybe dipping their toes in the quarterback field, right? Like, could you see Rosen backing up Jameis?
Yeah.
I could see that.
I could see Rosen taking Jameis's starting role.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I think Bruce Arians would absolutely love that, right? So he fits what Bruce Arians loves to do. Hell, he was at Arizona. So, I don't know. All right, so McKinnon jumps in. He said the Cardinals have the next 2 weeks to get a good value for Rosen. After that, his stock falls considerably, and even though he's a great player, his mentality may never come back and destroy his career. Matthew Miller jumped back in. He said the Patriots are going to swindle Arizona and get Rosen for pennies on the dollar.
That's the truth right there.
Yeah. I believe that. I could see Rosen being the backup in New England.
They've already got a quarterback that doesn't, quote, need money or need football at this stage, right?
Right. Who is the backup in New England right now?
Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer. But no. They drafted Danny Etling last year in the 7th round, and then actually kept him on the roster.
So Brian Hoyer is the backup to. I'm sorry, I do not hold Danny Etling in very high regard.
Oh, I can understand. You guys got to see him at Purdue. Like
we sure did.
He wasn't a ton better
well.
You know what's crazy? Chris and I talked multiple times about this. If you look at QBR and everything else, Danny Etling and Jalen Hurts had the exact same stats in Hurts' sophomore year. So, like the year before this past one, they had the same numbers, same number of turnovers, same number of touchdowns, like all that. It was almost the exact same. And I mean, looking at the numbers and looking at how much people hold Jalen Hurts in such high regard, nobody ever talked about Etling like that. Like, it blew my mind.
That's because he was Danny Etling.
That's it. I mean, you're right. You're right. And
I guess they're both 6'2". I mean,
the same size. One plays for a team that competed for a national championship. Or no, I guess that year won it. Although Hurts wasn't on the field when they won it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. McKinnon jumped back in. He said, perfect place for Rosen is New England. As long as he loses his attitude, Bill would eat him alive. And I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder, like, Rosen looks like he would fit in New England, but I do wonder because he's kind of smug. Like,
are we sure he has an attitude problem? I think people look back at like what he did as whatever at UCLA.
Well, that's the thing too. Is the bottom line is if he plays well on the field, because Brady doesn't even have, like, with the exception of Gronk, Brady's like lives on a separate planet from the rest of the Patriots right now. Like, you have all these young guys come in every draft, and then you have this like 40-something-year-old guy dating who's been married to this supermodel who it's just like he lives like on a total other planet. So it's like and it's not like Brady's not like a nice enough guy. I just think he has like nothing in common with everyone else on that team, except that right. He just wins. So I don't know. But
I think the only people that he hangs out with are Gronk and Edelman, right?
And
Gronk's gone. So, do we have any idea who's going to replace Gronk? Like
Gronk eventually.
You can't.
Yeah,
you
that
can't
offense. Like, it doesn't work without having a really big tight end, right?
Yeah, I mean that's why Denver got Noah Fant, is to be that Gronk replacement. I mean, or the Gronk Jace.
What the Patriots have been so good at doing for however long is adjusting, right? Like, Belichick just seems to be a step ahead of the rest of the NFL in figuring out, what is the thing that I'm going to do to counter what everybody's doing to counter what I'm already doing. And maybe that's where the N'Keal Harry pick comes in that he's looking at, hey, we're going to change our offense. We're going to get away from, like, we can't replace Gronk. There's no player that we can put into that spot that can do all the things that he could do for us and create that versatility. So we're going to have to do something different. And maybe, they take advantage of the fact, like, Brady's really good at getting the ball out super fast, so they don't have to protect him for too long. Let's stock up on some super fast receivers and see if we can carve people up on the edges, open up some space in the middle for a running game. I don't know. Like, he's just going to figure something like that out, and that's going to be the way that they get around not having Gronk anymore.
And Chris will remain insufferable. Like, he will drive us all bonkers with all of his New England Patriots talk.
I think until Brady retires, like, that's when you're really going to see something change in New England, because, like, he's just so talented at reading a defense and executing quickly. I think that's a lot of what Manning was really good at too. Those years in Denver, his arm was not what it was, right?
Nope.
But you would see him on every play adjusting the running back's position by like 3 inches, and then it would work. He had that mind, and that, I mean, to me, that's it's obvious when you say, oh, Belichick and Brady are smarter than everybody else, and it's just true.
Yeah. Matt Miller jumps in. Dawson Knox, sleeper tight end pick, typical New England player. I don't even know who Dawson Knox is.
Well, I was going to ask you, as long as we're talking about tight ends, about Irv Smith, only because there's a little bit of a tradition at Bama of they always have at least one tight end who was a monster recruit who just doesn't get touches. So I'm kind of like,
Irv Smith is not built the same way.
As like OJ Howard, yeah.
Yeah, OJ was big, you know. Irv Smith is 6'2", like 220 pounds. Like he looks more like a wide receiver than a tight. He just happened to play tight end. So I think that's got a lot to do it because he's, he can block the same way as a wide receiver could block. So there's not really. I don't know, man. It's a strange. I love Irv Smith, but he's not a tight end to me. Like he's super fast, but his height and weight and everything, his build is not a tight end. Like it helps him out as far as being drafted because like if he was listed as a wide receiver, like he'd be way further down the board.
It's important to remember, like Gronkowski was 6'6" with incredible speed and incredible strength / size. So he could be your blocker, be your primary receiving threat, win on a 50-50 ball thrown up in the air. Like you cannot find an individual player to replace all of those aspects. It's just not possible right now. The guy doesn't exist. Knox is,
his name is Travis Kelce.
That's that's
Kelce
right.
can't block like Gronk.
No, but he's big enough to. All right, so Dawson Knox, Ole Miss tight end, 6'4", 254. Didn't run the 40 at the combine. Didn't do the broad jump. Didn't do 60-yard shuttle. But he did 16 reps on the bench press and has a 34.5-inch vertical. Irv Smith, 6'2", 240 pounds, 4'6", 40, did 19 bench press reps, 32.5 vertical, 110 broad jump, blah, 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 blah. He's fast and he can catch the ball. And Dawson Knox, like he does look, like looking at his picture, he looks like a New England player. Like he's big old goofy looking white dude. Like he fits in perfect. So he's just very unproven. He didn't, the receivers at Ole Miss got a lot of the attention, so he didn't catch a lot of balls there. Maybe Josh Oliver's the other one that kind of hits the top 100 from the Ringers perspective. San Jose State, 6'5", 250, big catch radius, athletic. He's kind of got versatility to line up in a lot of places. So like you can engineer a quasi replacement for Gronk, but you're never going to get a guy like Gronk. Like
that
they
offense
don't make
has
him
to
like
change.
that.
Yeah,
TJ Hawkinson, 6'5", 251.
Yeah, he's who I thought would be the perfect guy, but he was never going to fall to him. A sneaky one that I could see New England taking maybe second, third round would be Jace Sternberger. Texas A&M tight end. He's 6'4", 250. He runs a 4.7 40. Like I could see that. Like his broad jump is ridiculous. It's like 113 inches. His vertical is like 31.5. He's a strong dude that Jimbo Fisher was able to use a lot last year. I mean, he led the SEC in tight ends receiving touchdowns. That's what I'm thinking. I've got somebody asking any ideas as to where Darrell Henderson goes. He's supposedly one of the best backs in the draft, certainly the best from Memphis in a while. So, of course, we got hometown people listening, which is always good. But as far as, like, running backs, typically are not going to go off the board until, like, third, fourth round, especially, like, iffy ones.
It's crazy how much that's changed from, like, when I got into watching football, right? And it, like, the number one pick every year was a running back. It's amazing how much it's changed. So he's Jacobs, who already went, David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson. They're all kind of like in that end of the second round, top of the third round space from like a big board standpoint. But until there's a run on running backs, like
it'll be third or fourth round, somewhere around there. But I'm amazed looking at the names on this list. You've got Damian Harris. You already mentioned David Montgomery and Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson.
Love.
Dexter Williams, Rodney Anderson, Travion Williams, Devin Singletary, Bryce Love. Like, nobody has talked about Bryce Love or Justice Hill for that matter. Like, or Myles Gaskin, who was absolutely insane. Does it blow anybody's mind that Elijah Holyfield decided to come out after his junior year at Georgia?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a great move.
Well, I mean, I guess like they've got a big time running back coming in that maybe he just saw the writing on the wall and was like, man, I better jump out now while I got a chance. You know, like that's the only option, I guess.
It's funny to me to look at this running back board and see LJ Scott way down at the bottom, only because I feel like half of me wonders if LJ Scott benefits from being the opposite of just about every other one of these guys. Where LJ Scott's like, hey, I'm out here, giant bowling ball, if that's your thing. You know, like 10 years ago, I feel like I'm like, you know, high second round pick. Now I'm like struggling to get drafted. I'm out here ready to just like tote the rock 4 yards a carry. And then all these other guys are like, I can catch it out of the backfield on third down. And everyone's like, you're the guy.
That's who we want.
Yeah.
Dude, Benny Snell is at like number 22 on running backs. Like, you got Mike Weber from Ohio State. You got James Williams from Washington State, Jordan Scarlett from Florida, Nick Brissett from LSU. Like, this is absolutely crazy. Got somebody asking, who is the most surprising player to still be available for you guys? That's probably going to be Taylor, right?
Yeah,
I mean, although it sounds like we're getting
unless his injuries are an actual thing.
I think for me it's Greedy.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, if it's not Taylor, if we're taking him off the list, it's got to be Greedy Williams, I guess.
Yeah.
Like he came out early, and go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm also a little surprised someone didn't jump back into the first round to take Locke just to get that extra year on the contract. I mean, do I think Locke is a first round talent? No, but I think someone would have wanted that extra year on that contract. So little surprised that
everyone thought 4 QBs were going to the first round.
Yeah,
like he was a consensus first round pick.
Yeah, going back to Taylor, the interesting thing about me, not so much about Taylor, is the idea that okay, so you have all these people doing mocks, right? And a lot of the mocks, at least the informed ones, are based on communication with the teams, or we think this team thinks this about this player, et cetera, et cetera. But very little communication comes out, right? And I think one of the things in his case, right, a lot of people must have had him as an injury red flag, and that a lot of the mocks just weren't able to account for the fact that maybe like you go to a team and a team's not going to tell you, look, we don't have this guy on our board because we think he's a red flag for an injury. Like they're just not going to give you that information. And maybe that's how a guy like that, if that is what the deal is with him, that's how a guy like that ends up falling really far, because like all these people who are mocking being like, well, we think they want to tackle and we think this guy graded out as high as everyone, whereas like the team is like, well, on our board, he's a stay away, but we're certainly not telegraphing that to anybody. So I don't know. I don't know if that's the reason. Just because if it's not that, we don't have any other reason why he's falling.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be the only thing. And other teams are wanting to stay off of him as well, because everybody everybody expected him to go to Jacksonville, and maybe if they can still get him at like 38 or whatever it was,
38.
If they can still get him at 38, like I would be surprised if they let him drop further than that. But I mean, we'll see. I got somebody jumping in saying, by the way, hope y'all continue this the next couple of days, or at least do a summary afterwards. Love the WLP and WCE team up. So if we can't do it on Friday, if we don't do it Friday or Saturday, maybe we do a recap Sunday or sometime next week.
Especially now that we've got the tech figured out. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, the tech was the biggest. I feel so ridiculous and yet so relieved that this thing is now working.
Hey, you figured it out, man.
It's
good on you, Gary.
It blows my mind. I've been running the show a certain way since January, and I use a USB mic, and it's just set up in my office, and all I do is plug in the USB, and it's very automated, but I don't talk to anybody else. And we have had these interfaces set up for 3 years now, and everything was installed and all this, but now that I'm thinking about it, looking back, it had all these Windows updates and all this done to it, and I'm guessing the old driver didn't work with the Windows update, so it had to update the driver, which took like 2 hours. How long did you and I, you three and us, we sat on here for over an hour before we even recorded the pod, right?
Yeah. So right now I'm sitting on 2 hours and 47 minutes of recording. That not all of that's going to go up, but for those of you watching on the stream who do want to kind of jump in as we kind of started officially recording right around pick number 20.
I think you should just upload the entire thing.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
God.
Just upload all of it. Let people listen to it at listen to it at 2x or whatever it is.
3 hour pod.
Oh God.
Whoa.
And listen to the disaster.
I'm going back through. I'm being I'm trying to think back and being if I want to run for political office someday, 10, 15 years from now, what was said in the first half before we went live?
John, just don't travel to the state of Mississippi. That's all.
Yeah, you'll be fine if you don't do that. Everything else will be fine.
Just for background on this, Sam, John, and I have been recording our quote unquote live draft pod for probably 3 or 4 years now, and
we've been doing it for longer than that.
Is it longer than that? Well,
I think since we started the pod, we did it real early on.
It's always nonsense where it's imagine the three of us are sitting in a room watching the draft and just talking about it and reacting to it, except that we're not in the room with each other.
Well, for a while, I used to go over to John's house, and we would be sitting in the room and have you dialed in. So, the two of us were in the room together, but now that's obviously not the case.
Now it always ends up being a bit of a shit show, right?
Yeah.
We fully accept. And
to be fair, so does the NFL draft. Every year, the NFL draft is a shit show.
Right.
So, and Chris and I have always done a recap of it. We never did it live because, God bless, it takes forever to get through the first round. And then, of course, the other ones take forever as well. And it's so tough in the 2nd through 7th rounds to be able to react to things as they go on. It can be a little, trying to get caught up and talk about each one. I still don't know how ESPN and all these guys actually do. Well, I know how they do it because they
hours and hours and hours of research and many people doing the research for them.
Well, yeah, and
that's their job.
They don't actually talk about the picks when they come in. They just get to them whenever they can get to them.
Well, after the first round, they're all it's all other stories, and except when some big name pops up here and there.
I got somebody that jumped in. He said, first one said, "How soon do you think Haskin plays?" And then another guy said, "Go Pats! We got a stud at wide receiver." Did you get the right stud?
My question to you is, what fake handle did Chris make up so that he could?
That's got to be it, right? I haven't. Has Chris actually texted back in? Has he? So for those that don't know, we have a group chat that we have started. When did we start this? Back in football season,
right before the
football season. I don't even know. Yeah,
and it's just our two podcasts talking absolute nonsense all the time, and I have to mute it because sometimes when this thing gets going, it is impossible to keep up with or to hear anything other than your phone when it starts. But yeah, so Chris has been jumping in here and there, and he jumps in. He's like, yeah, not a bad pick. For those that are just joining, Chris went to the movies tonight. Rather than watch the NFL draft. Chris was the first one when we brought up doing this together. Chris said, "Hell yeah, that's a great idea. We should do that." And then the next week when we were like, "All right, so what are the plans? When are we going to start? What are we going to do? Chris goes, oh, yeah, by the way, I got Avengers tickets, so I'm not going to be able to do it.
That's almost as bad as having planned a bachelorette party for this weekend in Nashville.
That's you saw the tweet I sent out, right? Like people get down there and don't know what's going on. So they're and to be fair, like it was going to rain on them anyway. So at least they had a party to go to.
To anyone who's ever been in a bar and then suddenly a bachelorette party showed up in the bar, it's just that little moment of karma. That's all I'm saying.
It's
but in
it's
Nashville, it's like 9 bachelorette parties show up in the bar.
Right.
Oh, and it's every bar.
Yeah, every bar.
I mean that is the bachelorette capital of the world. So, did you guys see the Godzilla commercial that came on?
Yeah.
Did y'all know there's a Godzilla movie coming out?
Yeah, it's the sequel to the one they did a few years back.
How did I? This looked badass. It had Tywin Lannister in it, and it had 11 from Stranger Things. Like, can they still get these actors and actresses for like cheap? Is that why they did this?
No, I mean this is big budget. I mean they dropped a lot of money into this, and the one that they had a few years ago, was it? No, it was Aaron Taylor Johnson, or it was the Elizabeth Olsen was in it. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think they played the twins in Avengers 2. They were both in it as kind of the leads. Bryan Cranston was in it, I think, for a little bit.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
I just feel like by the end of it, Godzilla was really close to becoming like our guy, and I feel like by the end of the movie, they were like really close to just like spray painting an American flag on the side of Godzilla, and I feel like this movie is just going to be the culmination of that. It's going to be like Godzilla. He's going to come out. They're going to play like Proud to be an American, and he's going to kick the crap out of Mothra. It's going to be like incredible.
Guys, I don't mean to like kick a dead horse, but I'd like to read a tweet for y'all from Pat Leonard, whoever that is. He says, Dave Gettleman said this doesn't mean Eli Manning in 2020 is out of the question. In fact, said they could be the Green Bay model, meaning he may have taken a franchise QB at 6 in the draft to sit him for 3 years. Doesn't rule that out.
Yes.
# Giants.
Oh,
that's
boy.
That's about the most Giants thing that you can do. That
doesn't really work.
I love it.
That doesn't really work though, because the Giants are going to have to sink more money into Daniel Jones than the Green Bay had to sink into Aaron Rodgers for that time frame.
Yes, it's significantly
24th versus 6th. I think so.
With a different pay scale too.
Yeah.
Well, see, this makes a lot more sense if you take him at 17, right?
Yeah.
Like at that point, you can do whatever the hell you want to with him. But if you take him at 6, like there's nothing else that you can do. Like you have to play him.
I'll be honest.
Him.
Like I would have been. So I really don't like the Giants. I have some very palpable Minnesota Vikings memories at the hands of the Giants. I don't like them for many, many reasons. And going into this draft, I wanted nothing more than for them to draft Daniel Jones. Even if they had done it at 17, I still don't like the pick. I don't like the player. But it would be at least like marginally defensible. When they picked him at 6, I was euphoric. It's the happiest thing that happened in this draft by far from my perspective, and I'll probably be talking about it for the next 6 weeks.
I can only imagine what it's like just New York, where like the New York Jets are like, hey, check out these North Texas unis, and then Gettleman's just like, hold my beer.
Oh my Lord! Got somebody said, how about Mississippi State having 3 first-rounders? He said that's big for us considering our past. Yeah, that's just let's. So I did text in and tell the guys when I was having my computer issues that it just lets me know exactly how much of a schmuck Joe Moorhead is for going 8-5 with this Mississippi State team. Had Dan Mullen stuck around, I think this team goes at least 10-3 and maybe a little better. because this was going to be the best year in Mississippi State history, and it was not close to that.
I mean,
QB issues though.
Yeah, QB issues. Complete
that's
change
all on
scheme.
Moorhead. That is all on Moorhead because the best coaches take what they have and they mold a scheme around that quarterback. They kept trying to get Fitzgerald to throw the football, and everybody in the free world knows that Fitzgerald cannot throw the football. So all you got to do is come up with a different plan. Run the triple option. I don't care. Like, find a way to make that dude less of a liability to where he's not throwing the ball to the wrong colored jerseys, and you got 10 wins. I mean, they had several. There were at least 2 games that I know of that they would have won had they just kicked another field goal. Like, it blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. Do we want to do like a quick recap because I'm gonna have to get out of here at some point.
Yeah.
Like I still got to go to work in the morning.
We are. Let's try to put some sort of pin in this. Exactly.
Here we'll go through all 32, and all I want is somebody to toss in like a sentence. You know, and so Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, number 1, quarterback out of Oklahoma. What you got?
And he's got the potential to be really, really good if he can stay healthy. And if he can learn to play like Russell Wilson in the pocket and not get hit, you know, he could be really, really good.
Especially under Kingsbury. I think that was a good pick for Kingsbury. I don't necessarily like the guy. I don't think he's going to be great, but I think he could be really good in that system. Number 2, 49ers, Nick Bosa, defensive end, Ohio State, only played 3 games last year, sat out to prep for the NFL draft. What do y'all think?
I feel like we talked about him less than anybody else, and he might be the best guy in this draft. He's filthy. When he's healthy, he's just a ridiculous. He's just like his brother. He's unblockable off the end.
I like how you said when he's healthy.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, right?
3 games is 3 games, but
and his brother's been hurt a ton. So
yeah,
right.
I mean, we'll see what happens. That's the only thing. I think he's got potential to be a bust, if only because I don't know that he can stay healthy. Like, I think maybe their bodies are built to break down, but that might just be me. Like, I might be the only one thinking that. Jets take Quinnen Williams, however you want to say his name, defensive tackle, Alabama at number 3. I mean, I think that was a reasonable pick and good pick and everything else for the Jets. I don't know what else they would have done there, right?
Could have gone 1 to 2 picks higher.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I love someone that referred to him as like a 300+ pound bar of soap, which is incredible. That's an incredible description. That sounds perfect. So yeah.
Yeah, he'll cause havoc for the Jets. I think that was about as good as they could hope for. The Raiders, they take Cleveland Farrell, defensive end out of Clemson at number 4. Bit of a reach, maybe.
But not as stupid as we thought Gruden would be.
Yeah, great. I mean, the player's fine. I just feel like they could have got him later. But, I mean, you can't hate the player. He's a good player.
Yeah, no, he's definitely good. And the fact that the Raiders didn't have another pick until 24, I could understand taking him at 4 if they thought he was the guy. Tampa Bay Bucks, number 5. They took Devin White, linebacker out of LSU.
He's a stud.
Absolute stud. That doesn't surprise me at all. I thought maybe Josh Allen would go there. But Devin White doesn't surprise me in the slightest because he is otherworld.
Josh Allen did go at 6, though.
Nope, number 7.
The other Josh Allen.
Oh, the wrong Josh Allen.
They ran it back. How can we get a new Josh Allen? Said New York.
That's exactly what they did. Let's see. Somebody jumped in on YouTube and said they should have taken Sweat instead of Farrell. Y'all agree with that? Like Montez Sweat at 4? That would have been a major league reach.
But this shows you, like, if like they would have taken Sweat, I feel like people would have had the same kind of reaction as when they took Farrell. A lot of these guys were jammed together.
Yeah,
and are getting flip-flopped.
I keep going back to the Ringer just because I trust them the most, and they had both those guys in the top 10. So,
both those guys like Farrell and Sweat.
Yep, they had Farrell at 6. They had Sweat at 8. in terms of their big board, not their mock draft.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
in terms
no,
of like
that makes sense.
their overall player rating, they had Farrell at 6, and then I'm sorry, they had Sweat at 12. It's Sweat at 12.
Okay.
So that would have been fine to me. It's a pretty fine grain between those players probably.
Number 6, Giants, Daniel Jones, quarterback from Duke.
Send in the clowns, baby.
Is there anything else that we could possibly say about this that we have not already? I don't know that there is anything else to say.
Yeah,
this was asinine. This was ridiculous.
This was hilarious.
Yes. I mean, this made the entire draft because before we even got on the Skype call, we were already talking about how much we were going to have to talk about because of Daniel Jones.
Let's just all wait for tomorrow's New York Post headlines. I'm sure they're going to be special.
Oh, Lord. The most fun I had was, so you have some Giants fans that don't have any idea what's going on that are in Nashville, and they're just excited because they picked somebody, right? But then you've got the other ones that you can tell are like the diehards, and you had one guy that was just mouthing, what the hell?
Like he can't throw or something like that. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is great. They quickly cut away.
Oh,
fantastic.
If only that pick had been made in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. Oh, my Lord. That would have been fantastic. I wish we could have seen some of the Giants, because every team has draft parties.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen the reaction in New York. So, number 7, Jaguars take Josh Allen. I think we all agreed that was the winners of the first round. Yeah. First round winners.
Yeah. I mean, based on everything you said about Bosa may end up easily being the best pass rusher. There's also a really clear path to Josh Allen being the best edge rusher in this draft.
Yeah.
I mean, by far. If Bosa gets hurt, Allen's the man. It's just that simple. I mean, and at 7, that's a steal.
Absolutely. Lions, number 8, TJ Hawkinson, tight end from Iowa. I think this might have been the safest pick in the draft.
I mean, Hawkinson is probably the closest comp to Gronkowski, and for the Lions to, exactly. Patricia, taking someone in the style of the guy he knows.
You got it. Number 9, Buffalo Bills, Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston. A lot of people had Oliver going earlier. This did not surprise me that he dropped to 9. I think he fits in well with Buffalo. I'm curious, a guy that's always been in Houston, his entire life, what he's going to do when he gets up to Buffalo, New York.
Well, he'll hopefully have a jacket that he can actually wear the entire time, and there won't be any fights over it.
He won't be able to ride horses year round up there, I don't think. But I could be wrong. Steelers.
What did Aaron Donald do when he got to Los Angeles?
Well, Los Angeles is a little different than Buffalo.
Guy who spent all of his life growing up in Pittsburgh. He did just fine. I think Oliver did the exact same thing.
Oliver, yeah. I mean, some people are like, he could be a little taller. I'm like, oh God, if that's the worst, thing you could say about him. Like, this guy literally was Houston's defense for years.
Oh yeah.
So it's not
he's the only thing they had.
He's got double teamed on every play. So I think he's going to be just fine.
Steelers take Devin Bush, linebacker from Michigan. I think we all agree that they only did that because they thought the Bengals were going to take him, because they had to trade up with Denver to get that.
Spite pick. Spite the Bengals.
Yeah, because I just don't see any way that Devin Bush beats out anybody that the Steelers have under contract right now. So this is more a developmental pick. It's the same way that they had to develop the kid from Virginia Tech from a couple of years ago that everybody said they reached for. What was that kid?
I know if Denver had stayed at 10, I would have been very happy with Bush there.
Oh yeah. I don't think it's a major league reach, like as far as the talent of the player. I think as far as team needs go, this didn't really fit what the Steelers' team needs were, I don't think.
Especially to trade up. That's the weird part.
Yeah.
And ironically, I think if it was the guy that the Bengals were going to take at 11, I think they got a far better player in Jonah Williams.
Oh, I agree with that. YouTube jumps in. Terrell Edmonds was the name of that Virginia Tech player. Jonah Williams, Bengals at number 11, offensive tackle from Alabama. He can play guard. He can play tackle. Everybody said that his arms were too short to play tackle.
Again, how many hands tall is he? I mean, come on.
Who cares? You saw this guy absolutely manhandle legit defensive linemen year after year after year at Alabama.
Plus, sounds like he's like Ray Allen shooting 3-pointers or something. He's got like OCD about game prep. Sounds fantastic. Sounds like the guy just literally does nothing but study spreadsheets and like figure out how to win.
Oh, that's a legit thing. That his roommates and whatnot have come out and said he doesn't do anything but football. And you want guys like that on your team. You know, there's something to be said for guys that understand that you got to get out a little bit. But, I mean, if you're in the NFL and this is your job, you want dudes that eat, breathe, and sleep football.
They aren't there to play school.
Yeah, you got that right. That's it. We don't bring players down to Tuscaloosa to go to school. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm saying in Ohio, they appreciate that.
That's as they should. Green Bay Packers at number 12 take Rashawn Gary, defensive end from Michigan.
This is a potential for me for a swing and miss of the first round.
Yeah,
I agree.
I feel like it was a little high.
If anybody had a really bad first round outside of New York, and I really didn't mind New York's second pick, but neither of Green Bay's picks felt good to me.
No, they took Gary and Darnell Savage, and that was just strange. Really, I don't know. We'll jump off Rashawn Gary. Let's do 13. The Dolphins, Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, Clemson. That was, I think, a really good pick for them.
Nodding vigorously.
Yeah, I mean, I expected him to go Haskins there, but if they're not going first round pick on a quarterback, I mean, that's a hell of a pick.
No, they got Ryan Fitzpatrick. That is the ideal team.
No, they don't.
That is.
Oh yeah, they do have Fitzpatrick. Yeah.
That is the ideal team that will tank for Tua. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing this year. Atlanta Falcons, Chris Lindstrom, guard from Boston College at number 14. That fits. Get some more protection.
I don't know if any of us have a deep thought about a guard from BC. I have not. I got nothing.
The only thing is you needed more protection for Matt Ryan. You got to give him more time to throw. I think this fits that well. Redskins, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback from Ohio State at 15. Not surprising, I don't guess.
No, not at all. I mean, they were thrilled that he dropped in their lap, and I know they were trying to figure out a way to move up to get him, but the fact that he dropped them, I mean, they're ecstatic.
Yeah, I agree. And when Snyder took over the draft, everybody knew this was the direction that they were going, and they didn't even have to move picks or anything to move up to get him. This is way better than the RG3 draft. So, he's not giving up, the entire farm to get one guy. And, I think it remains to be seen whether or not Haskins will be a great NFL quarterback. But you guys saw him in person, and you loved him, right?
Yeah, John and I were both I still have PTSD from what he did to Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah,
yep.
He that was a really good Northwestern defense, and he chewed them up. I mean, it was something else. Brian Burns, number 16, edge rusher from Florida State to the Carolina Panthers. Cool, I guess, right?
Fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I feel like there's some years where you have just a massive run on guys with this kind of body type. There have been years before where it's just anyone who's tall and lean and can come off the edge with fury, and you have a massive run on guys like that. And this year it's just kind of like Allen and Burns. Bosa's a true DE, and then you've got all these other guys who are just hybrid tackle end types. It's interesting. Just there are certain things get put on premium in certain years. You almost kind of wonder. It's I don't know. It's they're not to go too deep down a rabbit hole, but with guys like a Baker or Kyler Murray or things like that, it's maybe it's less binary than just they have a big tall guy standing in the pocket and we need a guy who gets to that guy as quickly as possible. I don't know, but Burns certainly fills that role. And
you got that right.
Late in the draft.
Yeah, I feel like he might have felt like he dropped a little bit. And I guess a lot of the mock drafts kind of had him in this, 12 to 20 range. So I don't think he dropped a whole lot, but yeah, if you can get him at 16, I think that's a pretty good win. Giants, number 17, Dexter Lawrence, defensive tackle from Clemson. This was that Cleveland pick from last year that Cleveland traded them for OBJ. I think this was actually a good pick. Like, Dexter Lawrence is a legit beast in the middle.
Yeah, you're just saying that because you want to bet off this pick. Come on now.
I mean, I do feel good about that. Don't get me wrong. I did win some change off of that, but no, like Dexter Lawrence, I think is obviously
sure.
Clemson.
Absolutely,
Clemson did great things without him in the playoff, but he was still a legit factor in the middle of that defensive line. He's a beast. Minnesota Vikings, Garrett Bradbury, center from North Carolina State. Yeah, cool.
I've really talked myself into this pick since it happened.
I bet you have.
So, I like the Vikes are going to move Pat Elflein over to guard, and Bradbury's more of like I think Elflein was a later round pick, so
Bradbury's more of a true center.
True
He's got
center
better footwork. He can see the field better.
And he was graded as like a mid-first round pick. So yeah, man, I'm all in. The Vikes needed an offensive lineman, so they got one.
Okay, yeah,
Sweet.
I mean that works, right? That works. The Tennessee Titans take Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle from Mississippi State.
Red flags everywhere with that pick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the Titans are kings of taking guys that have red flags, but then turning them into good players. Right, they did the same thing with Evans from Alabama last year or a couple of years ago, whenever that was. Like they've done this multiple drafts in a row where they see value and they go on and pounce on it, and we'll just figure out the details later. I think this is good because they've fixed up the offense through free agency, so through the draft is where you're going to have to fix up the defense. And this was a good place to start with the defensive line. Am I the only one that thought about that? Everybody else is like, yeah, Titans, cool.
Yeah,
That works.
pretty much.
All right, here, I know we've got some opinions on this. Broncos at 20 take Noah Fant, tight end from Iowa.
Love it.
There we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the pick. A, we needed a tight end. B, we got one of the top two ones. We couldn't get Hawkinson because he went at 8. So we were able to move down from 10 to 20 and still get the next best tight end on the market. And C, it's not Drew Lock.
Yeah. Yeah, Noah Fant will work well, especially this year. You've got Joe Flacco. He loves tight ends. We had somebody jump in on the chat and tell us that. Yeah, I mean, I think this works out well. Like, Fant is... If you watched him against, like, just this past year, if you only had to watch one game and you watched him play against Penn State, like, this guy is other level good. He's a great tight end, great wide receiver, whatever you want to call him. He can block, he can do everything. Yeah, I think the Broncos did well in this first round.
I'm surprised. Yeah, I just can't. I mean, it's just unbelievable that the same team had Noah Fant and T.J. Hawkinson. I think we can understand how it had to have been basically impossible to go into Iowa City and expect to win a college football game with both of those guys on the same team.
91st ranked offense in college football.
You got it. But they've had
Nate Stanley at quarterback.
They've had 12 tight ends drafted in the last 15 years.
But guys, Nate Stanley was the best returning quarterback coming back to the Big Ten West this past year.
I'm going to back up Iowa a little bit here because Iowa won me a lot of money early on. Now, towards the end of the season, like they won me a lot of money against Mississippi State in the bowl game. Like Iowa did some good things this year, but they did exactly what they were supposed to. Where'd they go? Like 9-3?
Hey,
or 9-4, whatever it was.
They've won you some money. They've won us some football games. We're happy. Everyone's happy with Iowa.
Darnell Savage, safety from Maryland, goes 21 to the Green Bay Packers. This is what we were talking about earlier. We have no idea what in the hell the Packers were doing.
This was a big reach before the Packers traded up for the pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they traded up from did they even have? No, they had the number 30 pick and traded with Seattle to jump up and get this guy. And I just don't see it.
He'd have been there at 30. He probably would have been there at 60 next round.
Yeah. I can't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, he made some money. Props to him. He turned 2 wins over Texas into some major money. The Philadelphia Eagles at 22 take Andre Dillard, tackle from Washington State. He's one of those guys that you notice. I feel like every time I say he's one of those guys, I feel like I'm John Gruden. You know, like this guy right here. Andre Dillard was.
Look, when we talked about Andre Dillard, we talked about, we were talking about him when we talked about that he was a player.
This guy is a guy. He's a dude, man. No, he actually
turkey hole.
Literally is he's literally somebody that stands out when you're watching Washington State games. Now, a lot of that might be the fact that there's not a whole lot of talent on the field in these Pac-12 games. The other side is he might be just really, really good. I think the Eagles got a good one with him.
I agree. I thought this is the guy the Vikes would take at 18, honestly, or the tackle from Florida. But yeah, I think it's a good pick for the Eagles for sure.
Titus Howard, tackle from Alabama State, goes 23 to the Texans. Look, I will admit, I watched one Alabama State game this year. I don't know who they played. It was on ESPN Plus, and I watched it because there was literally nothing else on. Like, it was on at a different time. There was no other football games on, and I have no idea who this guy is.
WTF, y'all.
He still had some of the most enjoyable highlights because watching a 6'5", 322-pound NFL first-round prospect play SWAC football against the rest of SWAC football is just so amusing. Just watching him just kind of like almost like a giant eating people, running over people, sitting on people. Just wonderful. It's not going to be the same now, though. But, yeah, I guess this fits developmental prospect.
Yeah. 100%. 24 Oakland Raiders take the bionic man, Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama, the first running back off the board. I believe the only
running back.
Yeah, the only running back off the board. 3-star from Oklahoma that just I still don't know how or why. I think it's a good pick for the Raiders because Jacobs does everything well.
And with Marshawn Lynch retiring, too, that it's a position in need.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, he's going to play. He's going to play a ton. And I think the Raiders are going to use him. I remember the Bucs teams and the Raiders teams from past Gruden and how much they utilized their running backs. And they utilized running backs this year. So I know Jacobs is going to get some run. And I mean, he could not have wished for a better situation.
I just love, again, that we're to the point with Alabama where the fact that a guy doesn't play can be viewed as a positive. Or it'd be he went to Alabama and he didn't play, so a lot of tread left on the tires. He's fresh. He's really fresh.
I wonder if all of that is because of how much some of the past guys kind of burned out very quickly.
That's
because
true.
They were utilized so much. Derrick Henry is one that has not burned out, but I mean, God, they ran him like 40 times a game like in that 2015 season, like when he won the Heisman Trophy, they ran him into the ground, and he was still chugging along.
But that was the only year, right? Like because the year prior he was the secondary back, and he didn't play that often, right?
Not a ton, but it was the same thing with Trent Richardson, right? Like at Richardson, they also had Eddie Lacy back there. Richardson played; he was third string behind Lacy and Ingram in 2010, and then Richardson was second string behind Lacy in 2011, maybe, or no, maybe he was. God, I don't remember what it was.
I thought he ended up being first string, and Lacy was the
backup,
the thunder to his lightning.
Yeah, and then Lacy was the starter in 2012 and whatnot. So yeah, I mean all of them got run. They just happen to have a deeper stable of running backs right now with Najee Harris and Damian Harris and Josh Jacobs and Brian what's his name, Roberts, and
Gary, your stable of running backs is even deeper than Northwestern's stable of running backs,
which is pretty crazy because I feel like Northwestern's offense is nothing but running backs, like just lined up everywhere. Marquise Brown, 25 to the Ravens, wide receiver from Oklahoma. I think that was a good pick for the Ravens, although I don't know that they're actually going to use him. But I mean, I seem to be the guy on the outside on this.
They'll use him. He's working on those 10-yard out throws right now. he's working on that fastball.
He's working on blocking. That's exactly what he's doing. His 5'8" frame is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Montez Sweat goes 26 to the Redskins, edge rusher from Mississippi State. I think the Redskins actually moved back up in the draft because this was Indianapolis's pick. I think this was a good jump back spot.
Good value.
Yeah,
good value.
Great value.
A guy that had a top 10 grade from some outlets.
Yeah, this goes back again to what I was saying before. Like in years past, I feel like just based on a guy like this as measurables, he goes like top 10 or even top 5. But it's just a little bit different now.
Now he did have some behavior issues. He got kicked out of Michigan State, had to go down to Mississippi State. Not where you want to go if you're used to East Lansing, which isn't it's not great, but it's better than Starkville. So, 28 Los Angeles Chargers take Jerry Tillery. No, I'm sorry, 27 Oakland Raiders Jonathan Abram. Safety from Mississippi State. Another good pick for the Raiders, I think. Abram was fantastic this year.
Whoa, we got to go back to Sweat for a second. He got misdiagnosed with a heart defect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just was coming out a day or two ago.
Yeah, he was. We don't normally hear of a misdiagnosis, right? Like you normally hear of health issues and people trying to hide them or not talking about them. But his red flag was never actually a red flag, which is strange.
He was cleared by the Houston Texans team doctor is the one that told him that he had been misdiagnosed in February at the combine, and that's why like a bunch of teams had dropped him on their board. That's wild.
That sounds like a lawsuit.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Back to Abram. How do y'all feel about Jonathan Abram to the Raiders?
Hits like a freight train. I'll say that for him.
I don't like it as a fan of a team in the division.
Yeah, that's it. This is a good building block. Like I'm kind of impressed with the Raiders.
Yeah, it's like a solid B plus out of the Raiders.
Given expectations, the Raiders and the Redskins did really well today.
Jerry Tillery goes 28 to the Chargers, defensive tackle from Notre Dame. He is definitely a player, and I'm going to give him this. He is the weirdest looking dude that got drafted in the first round. Like his face just looks really weird. Like he would frighten me.
More so than Devin Bush's suit?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Good gracious. Hey, Jerry Tillery is actually he's the one that was in Hawaii. Like he was celebrating his being drafted in like Honolulu.
Maui.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Either way, they're all the same to me. Like, all of them look better than Mississippi. So, but Jerry Tillery, scary looking dude, looks crazy. And yeah, I think Chargers, like, this just adds to their scary ass defensive line. and another team in y'all's division, right?
Yep. Don't love it.
Don't love it. Seattle Seahawks at 29 take L.J. Collier, defensive end from TCU. That was a reach, we think. I feel like the last 4 picks were a reach. Collier, like, you probably could have gotten him in the 50s. Like, I don't see what the purpose of paying him first-round money was, but maybe I'm crazy.
There weren't a lot of other edge rushers available. Like, if you really wanted to make sure you got a defensive end, like anybody they picked here, whether it's Polite from Florida or Collier or Jalen Ferguson, Zach Allen, Chase Winovich, like all these guys are like second-round grades. But, I mean, depending how deep they were in the second round,
maybe they wouldn't have been there.
Yeah, it's still weird.
Yeah, it was a strange, and the Seahawks do this every year. We talked about that. It's just a strange pick that'll probably end up working out for them because they typically do.
Well, and again, doesn't anybody want a good cornerback? Like, doesn't Seattle need a good cornerback? That's the weird thing to me.
Yeah, they do. They do. 30, the Giants, speaking of cornerbacks, DeAndre Baker, cornerback of Georgia. I think pretty good pick. I mean, Baker was great.
Not the corner I would have taken there, but, you know.
Well, it depends on what they think about Greedy or Byron. You know, I like Murphy in the spot. You know, that's just me. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know.
You know what's funny? Let me throw this out there. What if the Giants took DeAndre Baker at 6 and Daniel Jones at 30? Are they taking less crap right now than they otherwise? Because they totally could have done that. I feel like they could have taken DeAndre Baker at 6. Daniel Jones is still available at 30, and everyone's like, well, he's really raw, but they took him at the end of the first round. I don't know.
Baker at 6 would be weird. You remember how people reacted to, was it Cleveland that took a corner fifth last year?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been weird. Greedy at 6 would have been less strange. I don't know. They probably still would have gotten flack for that.
Baker, I mean, he was the Thorpe winner, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's like.
But what if they took Christian Wilkins at 6?
Yeah.
And then took the QB at 17 instead of Lawrence? Like.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
Or Ed Oliver.
Or
it's kind of like or Josh Allen.
Yeah, like, any number of better players.
Yeah. I don't know. But I guess part of it is like you can't hate Baker at 30. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that pick here. And that's the thing, like there's the start of the second round, there's going to be a whole run just in the corners and receivers alone where everyone's just going to be talking about the value. And I guess maybe it is value or maybe these guys are all just second round level players. I don't know.
And we'll wrap up with the last 2 picks of the draft. 31, Atlanta Falcons, Caleb McGarry, tackle from Washington. Fine, I guess. They go offensive line again to help protect Matt Ryan. You know,
they skip Jawan Taylor, Cody Ford, Dalton Reisner, Eric McCoy, Greg Little, all guys like significantly rated higher than McGarry. It's just a weird pick, especially that they traded back in to get it. Like, I don't understand why. It's like they gave away a pick for a guy that'd be there next round.
Got a couple of guys, YouTube and and Facebook. Jacob's huge fantasy sleeper if you're into that sort of thing. And McKinnon jumped back in. He said, look for the Chiefs to beef up their O-line and snag a running back for the rest of their picks. Defense still needs help, but they've addressed a lot of problems on that side of the ball in free agency or trades. Not surprising. And then finally, last pick, the Patriots take N'Keal Harry, wide receiver from Arizona State. I wish Chris was on so he could tell me what he thinks about this. I think they did need some wide receiver help. Very rarely do we see them actually take a player that we feel like they should take or a position that we feel like they should take. But I think this fits, right? I mean, they needed a wide receiver. Josh Gordon ain't coming back next year. And, you know, they don't have anybody to play wide receiver. So, yeah, I think this fits.
Yeah, it's a solid pick for the Patriots. Position like, especially with Gronkowski going, you need people who can catch the ball.
Yeah, and people that can fly. Because this guy can absolutely he is a deep threat. And yeah, this works for them. I mean, he's physical. He can go up and get the ball. He's I think this works out well for him. All right, so that wraps up the entire first round. I guess we will do the group chat and we'll see, when we're going to recap this thing. But we'll do it again soon because this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're going to put this entire raw broadcast up on the Westlaw Pirates feed.
Boy.
Head over to westlawpirates.com or find us on iTunes, Westlaw Pirates. And you can listen to our entire stream of thought during the entire draft, or at least from when we picked it up, round picks.
Probably pick 20.
Pick 9, I think. Well, pick 9 is when we started recording. Pick 20 was when we officially started the show.
But we're putting the whole thing up, so screw it. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, we're putting the whole thing up. Absolutely.
Cold open.
I love it. I love it.
Hour-long cold open. Love it.
So for all the Westlot fans, you can find us over at winningcureseverything.com. You can follow me at Gary WCE if you want to follow the Periscope show. Facebook.com/winningcureseverything. YouTube.com/winningcureseverything. We do the daily show every day, sometime after 3 p.m. Sometimes it's 3:30, sometimes it's 4, whatever. But it's 10 to 15 minutes every day, and it's a lot of fun. And then, we jump in and have these on. Had McKinnon jump in. He said, "Loved having you WLP fellas." So I think this worked out well. I really had fun tonight.
Yeah, this was very enjoyable.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm out of here. We will catch up over the weekend and figure out when we're going to do it again.
All right, gentlemen.
Sounds good, gentlemen.
It's been a pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely.
Right. Later.